As tech giants and media conglomerates fight for control of the 24-hour cycle, independent newspapers, the backbone of local and regional journalism, remain the most trusted source of news around the country. Is it the threat of Russian maneuvering or the death of trusted local journalism that poses the biggest risk to reliable news in America? Even the best local newspapers have struggled to fully adapt their business models and newsrooms to this new media landscape. Thousands of reporters and editors have been cut in the past decade, greatly diminishing the capacity of independent newspapers to consistently cover their communities in depth.
The Gazette's been around for 125 years. We just celebrated our 125th, and it has been a family newspaper the whole time. Right now, we're owned and controlled by a brother and a sister. We really, I think, are the quintessential, locally owned family business. It's definitely the worst it's ever been in terms of questioning whether the media is in bed with somebody or is corrupt.
When you ask questions about trust, you ask about local news organizations, and they tend to get the highest level of trust from Americans, about 25%. They would say they have a lot of trust. National drops down to close to 20%. But when you ask about social media specifically, you're down in the single digits when it comes to trust.
There's still not a lot of understanding once you pull back the curtain on the newspaper business, or I'd say the media business in general. As a reporter, I don't have an opinion. It's not my job to have an opinion. My job is just to present the facts. A newspaper has an opinion section, which is different than editorial section. Not many people understand that that's not the opinion of the reporters, but just a small group of people who form those.
Head southwest on Maxon Road extension toward Van Der Bosch.
Schenectady is it's a classic American Rust Belt city. A lot of the the housing stock in some of the city's neighborhoods is substandard. We've been reporting on these issues because several prominent buildings have been condemned, and we find that people are still living there despite safety issues. But where can they go if they're lower income? We know somebody's home because we saw them come out as we were driving by. There's kids inside. This is local reporting, man. It's a lot of just waiting on people's porches and being inconvenient.
Our paper, like a lot of papers once upon a time, made a lot of profit from our print advertising business. We had tons of very loyal advertisers. There was this shift to digital journalism. We were slow to respond.
The digital space in general, when websites were sort of coming about, had a massive change to the way news was structured and sort of breaking up that bundle. But social changed things even more in the sense that there was a lot more that people could come across by chance and by others sharing with them, sort of that network of sharers and the bumping into news, as opposed to sort of one specific time I was going to sit down and take it in through this dedicated, organized fashion.
We have fewer resources, that's a reality. We have far fewer editors.
And so there's, in many cases in newsrooms, far fewer staff than used to exist. And the news cycle itself has become minute by minute.
Breaking news tonight, the drama unfolding on Capitol Hill.
We are breaking in on a very busy news day.
Busy news night, busy news week.
Fast-moving developments on fast-moving fires.
Breaking news.
And so there's a constant feel the need to stay up to date with whatever is breaking or happening at the moment. And with fewer staff, being able to sort of turn away and spend time on a focused, dedicated story becomes harder for news organizations to be able to do.
It would be impossible to understand today's news environment without understanding the role and impact of satire and late-night comedy in the current 24-hour news cycle.
Thank you. And what kind of real news have you heard out there?
We've always wanted to do an exhibit about the power of satire and free expression in the First Amendment, and this gave us a perfect opportunity to do it. What better moment than the year before a major presidential election to talk about the power of politics and satire.
And now, for our continued comprehensive coverage of The Final Blow. You're out of order, he's out of order, this whole trial is sexy. President Clinton's historic impeachment trial begins Thursday, and the most important issue facing the United
States. It does seem like a very innocent time back 20 years ago when Jon Stewart started doing his show and people dubbed him fake news because they weren't real journalists. They were doing sort of reporting. They were interviewing people. They were gathering facts and adding humor to it. And people called it fake news. Well, that term has become a much more malevolent term these days.
Waterboarding is how we baptize terrorists.
Huh?
We started this exhibit actually back at the beginning of our country. British colonists were making fun of British rule and of King George. So sort of that element of wanting to make fun of people in power is part of our American DNA. And so Jon Stewart comes on the scene in 1999 and kind of makes it into a real cultural powerhouse. I think it evolved. Early on, it was doing, I guess you could kind of say a little bit that juvenile humor that, you know, is so much a part of, you know, shows like Saturday Night Live and others. And then he really kind of twisted it to kind of get it into, like, let's talk about some more important issues.
That's what I want to get to, is that vision of what 21st century government looks like outside of the politicization of it.
Individuals have to be really careful about the way that they experience information. Does the headline support the facts? Is the story even a legitimate story? You have to ask, what's the source for this information? Does this sound exaggerated? Does this sound ridiculous? And then search a little bit more, review it, and think critically about it. And I think that's what shows like The Daily Show and John Oliver and Sam Bee and Hassan Minhaj are trying to get people to do. Take a look at the facts and then really think about it. Really look at the hypocritical nature that politicians have in some cases. Really ask hard questions about the information that you're getting and about the people who are telling you things.
This program is made possible with support from Connecticut Humanities.